Which author has inspired you the most? I always get asked that question, and it's always like sitting underneath the stars in the middle of Yellowstone National Park, looking up and somebody saying, which one do you like the best? If you knew the universe, the literary universe that I live in, you would realize that it's a really difficult question. And the ones that I like the most might surprise you. John Knowles was probably one of my first ones. His book, A Separate Peace, and a follow-up to it, When Peace Breaks Out, really captured me. And Herman Raucher, with his novel Summer of 42, did the same thing. What hit me then was the reality of the characters. Now, I love reading Elfstone's of Sword of Shannara. I love reading The Lord of the Rings. I love reading The Hobbit. I love reading those books. But they're more of an escape for me. These other books were very much a real story, and you saw that your characters need to have that same thing. After reading those books, and then going back and rereading The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, then I saw an additional dimension to those characters. But it was John Knowles and Herman Raucher that really taught me how to make your characters living, breathing people. You know, both of these things were supposedly based on their real experiences, and they probably were. Were they the real names? I have no idea. Did those stories really happen? Again, I have no idea. But by presenting them as like reflections and memories, writing in the first person, it gave everything a dimension that I hadn't expected or had really encountered in books up until then. Most of the books I was reading by then were, the typical young adult kid stories, anything that you would get in the Scholastic Book Fair. Not to knock that, but, it's not really the most hard-hitting publications. But that's also where I encountered another inspirational and controversial author. And the first time I realized that writing can stir up emotions and make people think, and that was when I encountered, it was years before I actually ever got around to reading it. It was a book by the author Judy Bloom, and it's Pardon Me, You're Stepping on My Eyeball. And it deals with a young kid kind of having a psychotic break. And in that sense, it was probably along the lines of Catcher in the Rye. But this one was different because in Catcher in the Rye, you're just reading it from the standpoint of the protagonist, Caulfield. With the Judy Bloom book, there was another element added in. You had the friend that was seeing all this happen and was trying to figure out a way to help him and confronting it and not knowing who to turn to, where to go. And Judy Bloom really made you confront a lot of realities about adolescence, how we don't make smart choices at that age, how our mistakes, unlike when we were children, oh, you shouldn't have done that, can really complicate our lives, our futures, and the lives of other people around us. And it confronts you in the growing up and switching your viewpoint from being a kid with a lot of innocence to an adolescent that's supposed to have learned lessons, which now becomes an adult dealing with all of these consequences. So that inspired me because it helped me see that writing didn't just entertain. It also made you think. And her book, Pardon Me, You're Stepping on My Eyeball, I remember being in elementary school, and that was in our Scholastic Book Fair, reading lists. And some parents had an absolute fit, and the teachers just would not allow you to order it. They wouldn't let you have it. You couldn't have it on school property. And it was a really interesting thing. And a lot of us kids were reading it and we couldn't understand where they were coming from, because look, if a kid is told no, they're going to find a way to do it. It's just in their nature. And some of my friends had parents that weren't afraid of controversy. Okay, read it. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know about it. I'll read it too, and we'll figure out what's going on. So it prompted discussion and dialogue. And I think that's also why I like her, is she does something that makes you think and make you feel and make you discuss and make you figure it all out. And then there was Louis Lamour, who I've really only read a couple of books by him, but the one that I did read, that as far as I'm concerned is the best one he's ever written, was Sackett. And in there, it's a person who he comes across as a bit of a brute, not intentionally mean or anything, but somebody who just has tried to address his basic needs more than he has anything else. And he sits and he thinks about his brothers and sisters who have, gone on and done something with themselves. He became a frontiersman. He was a soldier in the Civil War. And that's all he really, his world for a long time was really black and white, very basic, primary colors. Then he decided he wanted to do something about that. He wanted to expand his mind. He wanted to bring civilization, culture, society, and everything to places that didn't have it. So he ended up reading Blackstone's Law, and it took him a while with some of the words, but he starts a town and he confronts somebody who's doing illegal things, and he goes, it's a story of transformation, not just of himself, but of the Old West. And that inspired me because I realized that you could have all of these other ideals like Judy Bloom, Herman Rucker, John Knowles, but you could present it in a very simple, straightforward fashion that in its very simplicity engages you and draws you in and is very non-threatening. In its own way, Sackett was a lot like the Lord of the Rings, you get this one, you've got these, little hobbits, small, hardly big enough to be noticed, taking on the force of evil and triumphing. And here with Sackett, you've got an ordinary man with a strong sense of right and wrong, trying to take on greed, corruption, and the force of evil. You have struggles. He wonders if it's worth it. He has doubts, and he sticks with it just because, no, this is mine. I want to fight for it. Not because of any big, avenging angel or white knight on a charger mentality, but no, this is me. This is mine. I want to protect it. I want to defend it. This is who I am. And seeing that you can tell an incredibly epic story in an incredibly simple manner was probably my inspiration for writing and how I pursue my style. So sit down. Who was the writer that first captured your attention? Not just, reading is fun, but I really like this. Find out why you like it. Find out if that's what's kind of prompting you to do your own writing. And if not, why not?